Hello, you spectacular people. How are you today? Today I'm talking about the influence that those on the other side, our guides, etc., the influence that they have. How far can they get involved in what we do? I'll tell you all about the conversation I've had with mine on the other side. So I was interested in understanding how much they influence. These are our guides. How much they influence us. How much are they allowed to do? Because we live, supposedly, in a free will planet. I've got a feeling that the free will occurs beforehand when we're choosing what we want, and once we're here, we've just got to run with the pattern. We've got to run with the contract. So I think the free will is beforehand. However, how much can they get involved? So that's what I asked the emissaries. What are you allowed to do and what are you not allowed to do? And so what they said was their principal work, and this will apply to all guides. Their principal work is to influence thoughts and ideas of people. So basically, they can put stuff in our minds, right? And more and more, I see people saying, I've received this from my guides, I've got this information from my guides, and not people who are formally channeling, just people getting stuff. I mean, they're busy as hell. They're busy as hell, and so that's what I was told that principally their job is to give ideas, but they said that they work according to the belief structure of the person. And this is important because if you believe that the information comes from angels, then they will appear as angels. They will come through as angels within that belief structure. If you believe that these are light workers, then and that's my paradigm that I live in, then they come through as light workers. If you believe that there is no God and there is nothing, because I asked them, I said, what about the people, what about the atheists, what about the people, the agnostics, the ones who don't believe in stuff like that? And they said, well, we just come through as jolly good ideas. But what they said was that as they come through, they're able also to bring emotion with these particular thoughts and ideas, because that's what is the catalyst. We have a thought and we feel good about it or excited or whatever. So that's the way that they work, principally. And I said, hey, but what about, for example, in my case, at the beginning, they were moving my body. And so that was more than just, putting ideas in my head. I mean, remember, the ideas were that I had to meditate. They said, on the odd occasion, not always, they can move the physical. But they said to do that, they've got to have permission. I didn't ask who that get permission off, but probably from the administrators. It's like if you want to build a fence, you've got to get permission, planning permission. Maybe if we're going to want to move this thing, they need some planning permission. But they said that they don't do it very often, but they do it when it's absolutely necessary to get that person's attention. And that's what they said about, in my case, because I'd been doing self-hypnosis for so long, and I was very accustomed to talking with yes/no signaling with my higher self, my unconscious mind, and my body wisdom. So I was already there. So they said we had to start moving your body, otherwise it wouldn't have been impactful for you. You would have thought it was coming from somewhere else, and that's true. It was the fact. It wasn't anything other. It wasn't the voices or whatever. It was the movement in my head, like this or like this, like significant, like whipping my head back. So that was needed. So they do that every now and again. And they said sometimes also we are able to move things in this realm. And so I said, well, why would you do that? And they said, well, that's so that we can place things within the visual field of a person so that they see them and then they get a reaction. So we kind of, it's like a trigger. They'll put things, I mean, how many triggers do we see now? Where we see repeated numbers and we see this, we see that, little signals. That's kind of what else they can do. They can manipulate our visual field so that it affects us. Yeah. So that's basically their role. So then I went on to ask them, well, you're working in the human realm. How many of you have been in the human realm, or has any of the emissaries been in the human realm? And when I say the emissaries, extrapolated out to any of the guides. And they said, oh yes, yeah, not all of them, but some have been in the human realm. And I said, so how is that chosen? What's the purpose? And they said, the guides are chosen according to the skills that they have, and they're brought together almost like a paint palette. So they're saying that to get the perfect colour and resonance, then they need to bring certain energies together with certain skills to get this particular outcome. And that's why they often say to me that the group changes constantly. It's constantly changing according to what is needed. And I suppose that applies to each individual person that they're working with, or maybe the particular situation or the frequency of the earth at the moment. So, all fascinating stuff. So, how many of you have had any physical manifestation of these messages? Having the body moved. I just listened to Richard Vobes, and he was saying that he had lost time. He lost time, and he just he was sitting meditating on asking his guides to come through, and then he woke up in the morning and can't remember anything between. And I recall that when at the beginning the emissaries used to do formal downloads to me. It was almost like, if this is the spectrum of where we are, I was quite low down in the spectrum, and they needed to get me up higher in the spectrum. And so they took me through quite significant jumps, downloading stuff and bringing me up. And sometimes it was so overwhelming that I didn't know, and couldn't differentiate between realities. It happened to me a few times where I was just out. I was out of it, and hadn't taken anything. I was just out of it, and not knowing. The thoughts were like, is this a dream or is this not a dream? But I was in the waking state. That doesn't happen now. It's almost like they got me where they wanted to get me, and then I'm fine, and I just kind of stay in that place. And so the adjustments are very slight, so I don't notice them. But hey, I'm still having these, which I think we all are. So I wonder what your experience is. I wonder how. I've seen a lot of you in the Telegram group talking about communicating, having downloads with your guides. What is it? How do you hear? Is it words, or is it feelings? Is it knowings? Is it movement? Or is it something else? And how many of you are actually getting stuff brought to you, put in your visual field as messages? So I think it's, they're working with a lot of people. And more, I think, as time moves on. So there you are. Put your comments in the video if you've experienced something similar, and I'd love to read them. And I love you all, and I'll see you all later. Bye bye.